Imagine this, a taho vendor, a regular man who walks the same streets every morning, accidentally uncovers something so strange, so impossible, that historians would argue about it for years. And the wildest part, he didn't even know what he found. This is the story of how an ordinary Filipino, with no degree, no training, and no special tools, solved a century-old mystery that museums around the world had failed to decode. And it all began with a simple mistake. Mang Lando had been selling taho for 27 years. Every sunrise before the first jeepney engines warmed up, he was already on the road, balancing 2 metal buckets, calling out taho, like it was a prayer that kept the mornings alive. He wasn't rich. He wasn't famous. He was just steady. The kind of man people forget when they pass by, but miss when he's not there. And on that particular morning, he sensed something off. He couldn't explain it, but it felt like one of those days when life was quietly shifting direction. The first sign came from a foreign tourist, an older man, tall, pale, with a slight limp, walking through the barangay market like he was searching for something he lost a long time ago. He looked tired, confused, out of place. And when he bumped into Mang Lando, the man panicked. He apologized, bowed repeatedly, trying to pick up the items that spilled from his bag. But in his rush, something else dropped out, something small, heavy, wrapped in old cloth. The man didn't notice. He walked away before Mang Lando could call out. And that was the moment everything changed. When Lando picked up the wrapped object, he expected maybe a wallet or a souvenir. But when he opened it, his hands froze. Inside was a circular metal disc, old, rusted, but carved with symbols he had never seen before. It wasn't money. It wasn't jewelry. It definitely wasn't modern. It felt ancient, heavy with the kind of weight that didn't come from metal, like it was holding a story waiting to be unlocked. Lando immediately tried to find the man. He called out, looked around, asked people, but the tourist had vanished into the chaos of the morning crowd. He thought about giving the object to the barangay office, but something told him not to. Not yet. Instead, he put it in the back pocket of his shorts and whispered to himself, Ibabalik kayo rin sayo, pero ano ka ba talaga? He had no idea that hundreds of years of lost history were sitting in the palm of his hand. The strange disc haunted him all day. Every time he served taho, he felt its weight pulling at his thoughts. Every break, he would unwrap it, tracing the carvings with his thumb. They weren't random. They weren't decorations. These were symbols arranged so precisely it almost looked like instructions. But instructions to what? By the time he went home that night, curiosity had already carved its place in him. He showed the disc to his niece, Micah, a college student who loved history documentaries. She wasn't an expert, but when she saw it, she gasped, Tito, this looks like something from the old trade routes. Possibly Spanish, maybe older. Where did you get this? When Lando told her the story, her eyes widened even more. Do you realize this could be important? As in, museum important? He didn't believe her at first. But one detail changed everything. When Micah searched online for similar symbols, one match popped up. Not a perfect one, but close enough to raise goosebumps. A missing artifact from the early 1800s. A piece that historians believed was part of a navigation tool used by traders traveling between Manila, Mexico, and Southeast Asia. It had vanished over a century ago, and here it was, sitting on Mang Lando's dining table. Still, there was a bigger mystery. Why did the symbols look different from every recorded diagram? Why was it wrapped carefully like a personal treasure? And most importantly, why was that tourist carrying it in the first place? Something didn't add up. That night, Lando couldn't sleep. Around midnight, he went outside and sat by the small table near his sari-sari store. He lit a cheap candle, held the disc under the flame, and that's when he saw it, something he missed earlier, when warmed, faint lines appeared between the symbols. Lines that weren't visible before. Almost like a map. His heart pounded. He moved the candle again. More lines revealed themselves, forming a pattern too complex to be random. Micah, who had followed him outside, whispered, Tito, this is a cipher. A what? A code. This disc, it wasn't meant for navigation. It was meant for hiding something. She snapped pictures and sent them to her professor, who specialized in colonial history. They expected him to reply the next morning. He replied in 5 minutes. His message was short. Where did you get this? Don't show anyone yet. I'm coming tomorrow. By the next afternoon, the professor arrived breathing hard, walking fast, like he had run from the university all the way to their house. He didn't even say hello. He just took one look at the disc and turned pale. This has been missing for more than 100 years. He explained that the disc wasn't just a relic, it was the key to a forgotten archive supposedly hidden by Filipino ilustrados during the Spanish era. An archive containing letters, maps, testimonies, documents that could rewrite parts of Philippine history. The legend claimed that the location of the archive was encrypted using old trade symbols, then split into several pieces. Most were lost during wars and colonization. Only one piece had ever been rumored to survive. The one now sitting on Lando's table. Lando couldn't speak. He felt like a man who accidentally picked up a stone, only to realize it was a diamond. But the real twist came when the professor recognized something else, something the internet search didn't show. The carvings weren't purely Filipino or Spanish. They were mixed. 3 languages, 3 cultures, 3 nations. Philippines, Mexico, Japan. A tricultural cipher. The professor explained the significance. During the Manila Acapulco Galleon trade, Filipino, Mexican, and Japanese merchants exchanged not only goods, but secrets. This disc wasn't just Filipino history. It was a piece of global history. And someone most likely that mysterious tourist had been searching for it. But why? 2 days later, the professor invited Lando and Micah to a small academic meeting at the National Museum. A secret meeting. The museum directors examined the disc under special lighting. Every detail matched archival descriptions of the lost artifact, except one. There was an additional marking. A scratched symbol that wasn't in the old records. A symbol that looked like it was added decades later. Micah noticed it first. "Tito, look at this. Doesn't that look like a name?" It did. The symbol wasn't ancient. It wasn't foreign. It was initials. The initials J.K., but whose? That night, Lando couldn't get the initials out of his mind. And then he remembered. When the tourist bumped into him, when he apologized, when he bowed, his bag had a tag, a faded travel tag. And on that tag was a name, Jackson Cato. J.K., the initials weren't random. They belonged to the tourist. Everything clicked. The tourist didn't stumble into the barangay by accident. He wasn't lost. He was tracing a path, following clues, searching for the missing archive. And he had somehow gotten hold of the disc, but lost it during the collision. The disc wasn't just a relic. It was a family heirloom passed down through generations, maybe even tied to a Filipino-Japanese-Mexican lineage involved in the original trade routes. Lando felt the weight of it all. He wasn't just holding history. He was holding someone's legacy. The next morning, something unbelievable happened. A letter arrived for Lando. No name, no return address, just a clean envelope left at the sari-sari store gate. Inside was a handwritten note. It said, "Thank you for keeping the disc safe. I know you found it. Meet me at Luneta Park. I will explain everything." Signed, J.K. Luneta Park was nearly empty when Lando arrived. And then he spotted him, the same tourist, sitting quietly on a bench. When Jackson Cato stood up, he bowed deeply. "I believe you have something that belongs to my family." But instead of demanding it back angrily, he looked relieved, emotional, grateful. Jackson explained everything. His grandfather, a historian, spent his life searching for clues about a lost archive created by Filipino ilustrados who worked with foreign allies during the Spanish period. The disc was one of several keys. When his grandfather died, Jackson inherited the search, continuing his life's mission. But he wasn't trying to own the discovery. He wanted to complete it and return the information to the Philippines. "This history," Jackson said softly, "is not mine. It belongs to your people." Then he bowed again, even deeper than before. Mang Lando was stunned. He wasn't a scholar. He wasn't a historian. But at that moment, he realized why the disc ended up with him. Because sometimes history chooses unlikely people to tell its story. Together with Jackson, the professor, Micah, and the museum, they finally decoded the entire cipher, piece by piece, symbol by symbol, clue by clue. And after weeks of work, the cipher revealed a final message, a set of coordinates pointing to a forgotten coastal town in northern Luzon. The following month, the museum organized an expedition, and what they found changed everything. Inside an old stone house, sealed behind a collapsed wall, was a chest containing letters, sketches, and testimonies from Filipino revolutionaries, documenting events historians had only guessed at for generations. The missing archive was real, lost for a century, found by a taho vendor. News outlets covered it, historians celebrated it. People around the world were shocked by it, but for Mang Lando, nothing truly changed. He still woke up before sunrise, still walked the same streets, still called out taho with the same familiar warmth. But the people who bought from him now smiled differently, with pride, with gratitude, with the awe of knowing that even the simplest person can carry the greatest stories. And somewhere in the National Museum, under protective glass, sits the ancient disc. with a small sign beneath it that reads, "Recovered by Leandro Santos, taho vendor, Manila." And every time Micah visits, she walks by the display and whispers, "Mang Lando solved a 100-year-old mystery while selling taho." The world remembers him as a hero of history. But he always says the same thing. "Hey, hindi naman, na dan lang say swert at Malasang taho." And maybe he's right. Or maybe, just maybe, history was waiting for someone humble enough to listen. Someone ordinary enough to notice. Someone like him. And that is how a Filipino vendor solved a century-old mystery, not with wealth, power, or prestige, but with curiosity, kindness, and a single moment of chance. A reminder that sometimes the stories that change the world begin in the most unexpected hands.